Hey guys, how's it going? So today I'm going to be talking about top 5 tips for beginner real estate wholesalers, or pretty much talking about the mistakes that I've made so you don't make them. Number 1, if you have multiple buyers for the property that you have under contract, make sure that you keep good relationship with all of them, even if one of them is the one who made you the biggest offer or the best offer is the one you're going with. The reason behind this is because you never know what happens with that buyer. You never know if he's gonna dig a little bit deeper in the property and say he doesn't want to do it. Yeah, of course you have the deposit, but sometimes they do ask for 1 or 2 days contingency period, and I don't say you really should do it, but sometimes you're in a situation that you're like, Mo, maybe that's not bad, maybe it's worth it, maybe I'll give it a shot. So what I do is try to keep good relationship with buyers all the time, even if they're not the ones who are buying the property from me. For example, right now I'm having a problem with one of my properties. So I had a buyer that was agreed to the property, but then they digged a little deeper into the property after they signed the contract. And they said, hey, looks like this property is not big enough for me to build a house there, or the house that I want to build, so I can't go with this property. I don't really agree with that. After you sign the contract, I believe you really shouldn't have any option to back off. But when you kind of go into the business, you realize that there are going to be things like that, like the sellers will back out of the deal, buyers, even the wholesalers sometimes back out of the deal. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's pretty much what I'm saying. Make sure you have backup buyers and keep in contact with them. Let them know, hey, you know, in these days, if this doesn't go through, I'll let you know. So they at least know what's going on. Number 2, we're gonna talk about the contract. So when you send out the contract, and I used to do this a lot, and that's what I learned from YouTube, from other wholesalers or other successful real estate investors. They used to say you really should try to have the lowest deposit as possible because you're gonna be the one making the deposit, so you want to be as low as possible. I found the way I do it is a little bit different. I want to make sure everyone knows this is not a legal advice, so you really should seek help of real estate attorney to make sure everything that you do is legal and proper and correct. But I tell you the way I do it, and I don't know if it's correct or not, but that's the way it works for me, and I closed on 5 deals in the last 5 months. So what I do is that I actually have the buyer put down the deposit. I don't put the deposit down at all. So the way I have it done, that I have, let's say, 5 days or 10 days to put down the deposit, and I have about the same amount of days for a contingency period, so I can technically give back the property if something doesn't work out for me. In this situation, you really have the ability to find a buyer within those 10 days and then tell them to make the deposit that you had agreed on the original purchase and sale agreement. What I'm leading to, you really shouldn't push for that minimal deposit. So my first property ever that I closed on, my deposit was $10. I mean, it's ridiculous. I just got lucky that the seller didn't really care and he just wanted to get over with it. He's like, $10, let's get it done. But the problem with that, I've lost probably 2 or 3 deals past that when the seller saw that deposit is so low and they literally just not replied to my calls or emails back, or they actually confronted me about that, saying the deposit is ridiculously low. It could be $10 or $100. So what I do now, I put down $500 deposit on every single contract that I send, unless it's a much higher contract, like, you know, it's in $200,000, $300,000 property, then you may consider $1,000 or so. What I'm going for, you really have to look professional when you do it. A $10 deposit doesn't look professional. And the seller already has a lot of red flags from dealing with investors, wholesalers, or whatnot. And so you don't want to raise more questions. You don't want them to feel uncomfortable. You really want to establish a good connection with them, and you want to make sure that you're professional and that they feel comfortable selling you their house or their land or whatever. So you put that $500 and then you tell the buyer to put down $500 plus whatever you feel comfortable so that they don't back out of the deal. I do an extra maybe $1,000 or $1,500 sometimes, so that would be $2,000 non-refundable deposit that the buyer deposit upon signing the contract. And I want to add another thing to that. You really want to make sure you have a title company name in your contract. The reason behind this, I used to put on the contract say something as buyer's choice, so that lets me or the end buyer choose the title company. And it actually worked out most of the time, but some of the times the seller was uncomfortable not knowing who's the title company gonna be, which if you really think about it, you can't understand that. They're selling to a guy that maybe talked on the phone a couple times, they texted them a couple times, and now they want to just not know who the title company is going to be holding on the closing. So they don't feel too comfortable doing that. and that raises a lot of questions. So what you can do is actually have a title company that you know is investor friendly, and that's very easy to know. You can literally call out title companies, go on blogs, go on Facebook, and ask around and see what title company in your area is counted as investor friendly. Put their information down on the contract, say, hey, this is going to be the title company that I'm going to be working with. Then when you actually find a buyer for that property, you would tell the buyer, hey, I have this title company on my original contract. If you want to, we can go through with them, or if you have your own title company, we can do that. And if they say, hey, I have my own title company that I want to work with, then what you do is prepare an addendum to switch title companies, which is super simple. You can literally Google that. It's like literally less than 1 page. It's half a page, and you can just fill it out, and that's it, and it's done. And if the seller asks why you wanted to switch title company, say, oh, that title company that I was originally gonna go with, it's very busy. Some professional will explain why you didn't want to go with the original title company and you had another title company that you wanted to switch in. You can say that, hey, I work with this one all the time, but then this other one gave me a better deal this time. I work with them as well. Number 3, make sure you really build a relationship with the seller. I kind of mentioned this before in this video already, but you really need to make sure the seller is confident on selling their property to you. A lot of times you have to put yourself in their situation because they're selling a property to the person they may have never seen, they may have never heard before, and this is the first time you're talking to them on the phone, over text. And a lot of times those contracts that you send over, especially if you use your state approved as is purchase and sale agreement, they are long, and for a lot of people that's overwhelming. You really have to make sure they have the confidence in you. You have to make sure they're comfortable. Be like, hey, if you have any questions, I'll answer them. We'll guide them through all that. And even if you don't know yourself, that's absolutely fine. I didn't either. You really just have to sound confident, and if they have questions, thank God you have Google, and you go ahead and figure it out and find the answers, or you can have Facebook and ask other investors or wholesalers. Either way, make sure to sound confident. Don't sound cocky, just sound confident, calm, and make sure the seller feels comfortable with dealing with you. Because there's a lot of unprofessional wholesalers out there. It's insane. It's really crazy how a lot of wholesalers do this business, and they're really unprofessional how they do it. Not only dealing with the sellers, but also deal with other wholesalers. The more you get into this business, you will see this, but it's been kind of crazy. I'm very surprised how many unprofessional wholesalers you have. Well, I say that, but I also have done a video before talking about how really the reason why there's so many unprofessional wholesalers in this business, because it's a startup business, so you don't really need a lot of investment to make this business work. So a lot of people just dive into this business with no intentions of being proper, professional, or whatnot, and they fail, but they also screw up you if you're really trying to make this work. And on this note, we're actually leading to number 4. Don't be the same as everyone. And many things go into this one. Your text, the way you send text to people, your approach when you call them on the phone, the way you treat people, everything like that, the questions you ask, all that stuff, you really shouldn't be the same as everyone, because especially in the market the way it is right now, we're in beginning of 2021, it's still crazy because of coronavirus, and the still real estate market is booming. So there's so many people doing wholesaling, and because of that, the sellers are overwhelmed with the amount of text and cold calls and emails and mailers that they get. So really try to be different, try to be personable, try to be a good person when you actually reach out to them and talk to them. Don't be all about the money. I know we all want to make the money, but at the end of the day, it's still people business. And number 5, talking about marketing systems. When you start wholesaling, you really should try a couple different marketing systems. I know a lot of people say, hey, you should take one and stick to it and get it done until you perfect that system and then switch to another one. Don't spread yourself too thin. I get it. I do agree with that. You really shouldn't spread yourself too much. But in the beginning, unless you try different marketing systems, you're not gonna know what you really like to do and the way you wanna do it. When I started this business, I've tried email, bandit signs, text messaging, cold calling, I've tried mailers, I've tried Facebook marketing, and right now, after 5 months, I narrow it down pretty much. All I do is texting, and I've been implementing cold calling slowly. So really in the beginning, you should try a little bit of everything and see what really works for you. Let's say you put out 200 bandit signs, and out of those 200 or 100 bandit signs, you got maybe 1 call or 2 call. Maybe it's not really worth spending your time doing that. You really just have to make sure whatever you're doing is that worth your time and worth your money. So for example, I put up 100 bandit signs, and I maybe got like 4 or 5 calls from them, and 3 of them were from other wholesalers actually trying to learn how to wholesale, thinking that I know what I was doing. Back in the day, I didn't really know what I was doing, so I was just kind of going with the flow. I've done emailing for a while. For a week, I did like 200 emails almost a day. I had special programs, stuff like that. Maybe that's not like a crazy amount, but it was a lot for me because I wasn't really using any kind of expensive software. That didn't work out at all. I got like 3-4 applies and all of them were negative, so I didn't really get anything from that. I've done mailers. I actually handwritten mailers before, and I think I wrote over about 500, maybe 600 mailers. And out of them, I think only 1 or 2 people called me back, and one of them I was almost gonna go through with the deal, but that didn't work out. But it just took so long to actually write yourself and do everything yourself, so you really have to pay for it. And when you have to pay for it, it gets kind of expensive. So I was kind of not very interested in this type of marketing system at the moment because I didn't really have the money when I was starting out. And then cold calling, I've tried cold calling and I think it works. It really does. A lot of people say it works and it works for them. And I think it will work for me when I do it more. But so far I have had no luck with it. I really just hate cold calling, let's be honest. And I think a lot of people do. About 90% of people hate cold calling. It's very emotionally draining to cold call, so I haven't been able to do it. So I've actually been just concentrating on texting, which I talk about a lot. But I've been actually trying to overcome that right now and get more cold calling because I'm trying to acquire houses, not only vacant lands, which I do just at the moment. I do mostly vacant lands, which still works out good, to be honest with you. So I really don't feel the need to do houses at the moment, but in the future I probably will. So yeah, those are the top 5 tips in my opinion that you need if you're starting real estate wholesaling, or you're just kind of in the beginning, you're already learning, you're trying to take your first steps. Those are the things that I've done mistakes in, or I realized while doing this business. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment down below, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and as always guys,